There we go. Okay. Good morning again, everybody, and welcome to this session of, we're calling this part of it Wandering Here and There. And we're focusing on prayer. And I just want to go back to, I want to start by reading you a prayer. Yeah. In fact, maybe more than one prayer. Um, this prayer comes from A Course in Miracles, and it's in the workbook, and it's lesson number 189. And the title of the lesson is called I Feel the Love of God Within Me Now. So here's adapted from that workbook lesson. Simply do this. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is. All concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false or good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you ever learned before from anything. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with wholly empty hands unto your God. Is it not God who knows the way to you? You need not know the way to God. Your part is simply to allow all obstacles that you have interposed between you and God the Creator to be quietly removed forever. God will do its part in joyful and immediate response. Ask and receive, but do not make demands nor point the road to God by which he should appear to you. The way to reach God is simply to let God be, for in that way is your reality proclaimed as well. Creator, we do not know the way to you, but we have called and you have answered. Salvation's ways are not our own. It is unto you we look for them. Our hands are open to receive your gifts. Yours is the way that we would find and follow. Amen. Okay, we're talking about step 11, and in particular, we're talking about a bunch of stuff that Emmett Fox has said about prayer from one of his books, and I think I'm going to read you another prayer, and then go somewhere else. If I seem a little scattered this morning, it's because I am. Okay, this prayer is coming from a book that's new to me. Uh, and I think we're going to be talking about it more in later sessions. Um, the man's name is Rami Shapiro. He's a Jewish rabbi. He's written more than 30 books through his years, very well read. And I'm looking for the book. There it is. Um, and his last two books are this one, Zen Mind, Jewish Mind. It's about parallels between Zen Buddhism and parts of the Jewish tradition that he finds helpful. But what I'm reading to you, no. Um, oh yeah, okay, is this one, Recovery, the 12 steps as a spiritual practice. So he's not an alcoholic, he's a food addict, but he's just, I mean, of course, if he's a rabbi, he doesn't have doubt about God. It's only the ego that has doubt about God, because the ego doesn't want God telling us what to do. I think, at least mine. It wants to do what it wants. And any rate, so this is this in this book he runs through the 12 steps, and this is at the end of chapter 2, which is step 2, and he calls this practice seeing the pure soul. So I'm going to read you the prayer first, um, and then see where we go. Okay. My God, the soul you place within me is pure. And because it is pure, I am free to live today differently than yesterday. Because my soul is pure, I am free to live today without the burden of past habits, past fears, past mistakes, past failures. I am free to look at my past without repeating it, to examine it for lessons to be learned and amends to be made, and to draw from it what guidance I can to live today differently. My God, may I use today's gift of freedom to further my capacity to serve you by serving your creation with justice, compassion, and humility. Um, and I believe that the primary purpose of prayer is to work, and the primary purpose of our steps is to work my way free of my habits of thinking that I call my ego, my human ego. Um, to work my way free of those habits, and the challenge of a habit um, is that it rejuvenates itself and it just keeps on going until I have some kind of intervention. If you think about the habit of drinking, we had no, once it's a habit, we have no choice. We're we're not choosing to drink. We're not choosing to take the first drink. We're drinking because we've developed the habit. And until some kind of intervention in that habit takes place and we replace it with something different, we live in our addiction. And that's really what he's talking about in terms of freedom. It's freedom from living in our addiction, um, so that we can live to God's purpose for my life. I purpose for our lives. I tell you, this notion of being clearer about why I am here um, makes such a difference in the way any day feels. If I'm clear about my purpose, um, the days go well. They don't. It's when I'm confused about my purpose that I get all tangled up in the naughtiness of the world. And not naughty, but KNOT. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Um, so this prayer of his is to try to allow us to get out of our habitual thinking so that we can um, communicate or feel the presence of this power greater than ourselves. Now, personally, I feel that comes much more through my soul's awareness, than it does through my ego mind, which is this self concept that I've made up inside my mind. It consists of my habit patterns and my predispositions to do things. Actually, I believe my ego is the sum total of my contempt prior to investigation, which the spiritual appendix says this will stop all spiritual progress. I declare my ego real. I live according to what it's telling me my life is all about, and I suffer the consequences. Um, and I love the way the opening reading. I love it when these guys say this is the big book. It's early in the big book. If what we have learned and seen and felt means anything, if this whole deal means anything, the 12 steps, the fellowship, our tradition, if it means anything, it means that all of us, this is every one of us, there are no exceptions to this, can form, all of us are the children of a living, loving creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are honest, open, and willing enough to try. I think that's the whole thing, and the honest, open, and willing to do this stuff we don't want to do. I don't believe my ego wants me to pray. It doesn't want me turning my attention away from it and its needs and its wants and its fears, and turning to God. Because it knows on some level that it's a sham. You know, it's amazing when you think of your sense of self, you've made it up in our little mind some here, how it's not our reality. And why I love it when somebody says your reality is your spiritual reality. Don't get hung up on your physical, mental reality. We're trying to get more conscious of our spiritual reality, which is our soul. I'm telling you, this book, Journey of Souls, that I've referenced a couple of times, Michael Newton is the author, Newton. It's just amazing because it's like, you know, when if you're sitting in an agnostic situation, you got doubt about God, or even if you're atheist, you're declaring now that God is bunk. That God is not real. It's just something. It's like you're making up this God thing. I'm making up my sense of ego, but any rate, it's like one of the things that I was struck by the Jesuit stuff that we've been delving into is they don't have any doubt. They're starting on step 11. They're not starting on step 1. They're already in a position to try to improve this relationship with God. There is no doubt there. And doubt is of the ego. Doubt is not doubt. One of the markers in the Ignatian stuff is when they talk about an experience of God that is beyond your ability to doubt. We call it a God shot. It's where something happens and we know this is not a product of our egos. There is no doubt. It's the personal doubt. I said over and over, it's something I've struggled with all my life. And when I don't feel doubt, I don't feel fear. Doubt is a form of fear. What am I and what am I supposed to do? Reading number 1 from this morning. Your life has been given you mainly for the purpose of training your soul. It's not for the body, it's for the soul. But we're all choosing what best serves the body. God wants us to choose what best serves the soul's spiritual growth. Accept this, and a wonderful molding of character takes place. Remember in the page 69, the sex conduct inventory. We ask God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. I love that better than step 11 because it's not as dry as, you know, step 11, praying only for knowledge of why am I here? What do you want me to do? And the power to carry that out. Please mold my ideals and help me live up to them, because lack of power is my dilemma. I'm starting to see everything in my life as lack of power is the problem. So how am I going to get power? Well, the way I'm going to get power is through prayer and service. Actually, prayer, love, and service, you could say. Love is where I'm grateful instead of resentful. And service is where I'm thinking about somebody else instead of about me and my little precious ego and what it wants and needs to carry on. It's BS. The ego is BS. And there's freedom when I can acknowledge that. I don't have to worry so much about it. I spent all my time worrying about how my ego was doing in this life. Anyway, okay. Uh, and then Ignatius comes along and says the primary purpose of your life is to trust, love, and serve your Creator, and thereby do the work your soul came here to do. And all this human stuff does not matter. I know it's so hard to what are you saying? That stuff doesn't matter. Rich life, poor life, healthy life, sick life, long life, short life, honored life, dishonored life. You're telling me that doesn't matter? Um, that can be freeing because that's all the stuff that makes a difference to the ego. So Rick Warren's primary purpose-driven life. What on earth am I here for? One, you were planned for God's pleasure. You're planned to be a part of the evolution of spiritual consciousness through your human experience. Two, you were formed for God's family. This is fellowship. First one is worship. Formed to live in fellowship. You're created to grow along spiritual lines. The point is, we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. You were shaped for serving God, shaped to respond to the 10-step question, which the book says this is the only thing I'm actually supposed to be thinking about. God, how can I best serve thee? I've been saying this for a long time, and it's finally, occasionally, a couple of times a day, not all day long, but a couple of times a day, I will go, God, how can I best serve thee? Particularly if I'm in a negative situation. Um, and finally, you were made for a mission, so it's worship, fellowship, discipleship, which is just following a spiritual path, trying to grow along spiritual lines. Ministry, which is service, and mission, which is message. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, I try to carry this message to other alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. Okay, so I'm going to Emmett Fox and talking about a couple of his passages, and this is in the study guide in step 11, and I sent a PDF, and I don't know whether you've managed to print it out or not. It won't matter, but if you have, starting with number 4, we got through the first 3 the last time. Number 4, Emmett Fox on prayer from his book, Make Your Life Worthwhile. What we call life is a small part of God's universe, which we are able to see. And all these marvelous happenings are part of God's expression. Dominion for yourself is to be found within your own mind. Establish peace there. Cultivate an understanding of God by seeking God's presence daily. Outer things will take care of themselves. So, one of the things that I hope one day to get back into A Course in Miracles, the stuff it says is just so marvelous. It's so many words and so long. But one of the things it says somewhere is your ego thinks it's in competition with God. Can you imagine my little self that I've made up in here that just consists of some form of mental energy? It's identified with the body and the mind because it feels those are real. It's in competition with God. It wants to. When they examined us in the 40s, the psychiatrist, the 2 characteristics that they felt were attributable to all of us were self-centered. They called it grandiose, but it just means self-centered. I make everything out there as it relates to me, and defiant. Defiance um, a, is a characteristic of us, and it's characteristic of the ego. Tell the ego to do something, it's going to say no, I don't want to. Tell it not to do something, is yeah, I'm gonna. I remember standing in front of my refrigerator. I wasn't sober yet. I wasn't in AA, but I had read enough of A Course in Miracles to ask higher power, and I asked higher power at 7:30 in the morning. I don't know if I said that. Do you want me to take this drink? And because I wanted to open the refrigerator and guzzle this bottle of wine and I had in there, I couldn't. I, I I'd gotten to vodka because it's the most bang for the buck, and I'm cheap like most alcoholics. Um, but I'd get so hammered so quick that I switched to wine. So I had these big bottles of wine. So I'm standing in front of the. Got it. Do you want me to? I want to take a drink. Do you want me to take a drink? And I don't know what I heard, but I feel like today what I heard was, "Are you frigging kidding me? Of course I don't want you to take a drink." Um, and uh, and then my ego said, "Watch this." And I opened the door and I grabbed the bottle and I started chug-a-lugging white wine at 7:30 in the morning. That was my ego's defiance saying, "Frig you, God, I need to drink." Um, and if you talk about lack of power, what I lack power over is not acting on my ego's wishes, whatever it wants me to do. Um, so, at any rate, that is the challenge. I believe that spiritual work is diminishing the voice of the ego, working through its cares and concerns, trying to get to the truth of our lives, which are to try to become trusted servants of our Creator and do what we're guided to do in terms of making a difference in the way the world does the world's business. Number 5, this is straight Course in Miracles. There are only two feelings a human being can have: love and fear. Love is always creative, fear is always destructive. A sense of love rebuilds the body, lengthens the life, brings inspiration, opens the way in 1,000 directions, overcomes any obstacle. Fear throws a winter of death over everything. And then we might say our only two feelings are gratitude or resentment. And the question is, am I powerless over my resentful mind? And I absolutely was. I didn't even understand. I mean, one of the remarkable things is understanding that resentment, which is everything from mild annoyance to flat out rage, those are forms of fear. That I'm powerless over I cannot choose love. In fact, I don't think I make love in here. I don't think I create love. I think whenever I feel it, I'm actually feeling God's love for me. And when I'm feeling grateful or loving toward you, it's because I'm allowing that to flow through me. It's one thing that strikes me every time I say the third step prayer: take away my difficulties, that my victory over these difficulties will demonstrate your power, your love, your way of life. I'm given freedom in my relationship with God so I can demonstrate the power of God in my life to anybody that is aware of it. And from any AA experience how much happens by us. It's not what we say, It's what we demonstrate. What we demonstrate in our meetings, what we demonstrate in our lives. That's how we learn and teach each other. Um, so the real question is, am I able to receive God's love and feel it toward the world that I'm living in? Or am I caught up in my ego's fear, which is showing up as resentment? Number 6, divine love never fails at anything. Whoa, that's a promise. That's an Emmett Fox promise. Divine love never fails at anything. Fill your heart with divine love by thinking it, feeling it, expressing it. When this sense of divine love is vivid and real, all your problems will be healed. Criticism, grumbling, the nursing of grievances prevent divine love from healing this. So gratitude, I believe, is an expression of this divine love, and my resentment is an expression of the ego's fear. And I only get those two choices. That's what we read in the opening words. It's either this or that. I'm either living out of my ego, fear, anger, resentful, feeling ashamed, um, anger, fear, remorse, the three things that we inventory in step 4. Or I'm living in God's love and trying to express it and trying to do what God guides me to do. Number 7, there are no accidents. In the long run, you will demonstrate your character. Your own character makes or breaks you. If you seem to be lacking in certain necessary qualities, ask God to remove what you don't need and give you what you do need to do God's will. Wow, we're doing good. I'm going to do a couple more here. I'm turning to the second page and looking at number 8. The law of being is perfect harmony. That truth never changes, but we use our free will to think wrongly. This is the definition of wicked. And build up false conditions around us and believe them to be real. We forget that we made them up, and we bewitch ourselves. We throw ourselves under a kind of spell, and the only way to get out of that is to try to turn the mind to God, and that's the point of prayer. We're trying to turn the mind to God. Part of what I've gained from this Jesuit stuff is a couple of essentials for prayer to be effective. I mean, they're all forms of prayer. For me, one of them has been reading. I find when I read spiritual literature, it's a prayerful thing for me. I can feel it go into a deeper part of my being than just my conscious mind. So one of the things that they do is they give you these steps of prayer, and the first 4 before we go into an examination of what's happened in our life. This is called the Ignatian Examen. Begin in your usual way, just like our meetings begin with the Serenity Prayer, and you as soon as the meeting, I love it when you go into a meeting and the place is just buzzing. I mean, everybody's talking and saying stuff, and if you were new to AA and you walk up, what's going on? What drug are these people? And then the gavel goes, and we will get in this meeting with a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. Wah, and then the prayer comes, and you can feel the energy of the room shifts. It's just like Pavlov's dog. We just go into a different. Okay, the meeting is on. I don't know if I said I heard this great thing. This guy was the speaker was. He was complaining to his sponsor the trouble he was having was step 11 with prayer and meditation. And so his sponsor says, well, did you go to a meeting today? He said, yeah, I go to a meeting every day. Well, how did the meeting start? The guy goes, serenity prayer. Yeah, well, okay. Um, did did people get quiet and share? Yes. Did was there any kind of meditation going on? I guess he was asking. Do you believe that God speaks to you through other people? Yes, I believe that. Did God speak to you through other people? Yes. How did the meeting end? With a prayer, and it was like the meeting is an act of prayer. It's a wonderful. I feel it's my church service going to a meeting. Anyway, okay. One more. Maybe it is number 9. It is the quality of your habitual thinking that matters. This is just what Rami Shapiro was. Our problem is our mental habit patterns, and we're using the steps to try to change our mental habit patterns and create new. And one of Emmett Fox's mental great ideas or mental principles is you can't drive a habit out of your mind. Um, if I say, don't think about the Statue of Liberty, the first thing you do is think about the Statue of Liberty, you know? And that's just the way it works, and why it's the power of substitution, the power of replacing. And what we're trying to change is replacing listening to the ego's voice 24/7, 365, to trying to listen to God's voice within. And why that book is so God's the Jesuit book, Mark Thibodeau, God's voice. It's about the rules for discernment, but because it's discernment is about distinguishing what is God's voice and what is my ego's voice, and trying to get closer to the ego's voice. Okay, it is the quality of your habitual thinking that matters. That is what makes or mars your life. It is not so much a particular thought, good or bad, but the general quality or tone of your thinking that determines your fate. Inspired thinking is realizing that God is working through you in everything you do. I want to read that again. Inspired thinking is realizing that God is working through you in everything you do. If you really believe that God is working through you, the quality of your work will be so high and you will receive so much inspiration from God that every barrier in your path will fall away. Undreamed of good will come into your life, and you will be a blessing to all around you. Wow. I believe that's the purpose of prayer, to believe that God is working through me, that I am, that page 49, rather than consider ourselves God's intelligent agent, part of the evolution of consciousness, we choose to believe our own thinking. And then it gets to where we lack the ability to not choose our own thinking. Our own thinking takes precedence. Okay, going to close with a prayer here, and we'll have some open discussion. Um, um, this is workbook lesson 155. I will step back and let God lead the way. Step back in faith and let truth lead the way. You know not where you go, but one who does know goes with you. Let God lead you. We walk to God. The truth that walks before us leads us to where God has always been. Thank you for being here. We'll have some open discussion.